in and out, money, anything, ayy. Ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross, if they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Revenova, the official TMS provider for the Freight Coach. You guys, I've been a broker for a long time, and the tools that are at your disposal with Revenova help you eliminate bouncing between systems, which improves your accuracy when you are managing multiple tasks throughout your workday. Plus, it's built into the Salesforce cloud, so your CRM is fully integrated with your TMS, eliminating yet another silo. In today's day and age, you are definitely concerned about the safety of your data. With Revenova, it's fully protected. They have cutting-edge security that keeps your information safe so you can focus on what matters most, and that's growing your business. Speaking of growing your business, with Rate and Lane IQ, you get real-time pricing and route recommendations, helping you optimize costs and improve operational efficiencies, which ultimately helps you make smarter decisions. If you are like me and have recurring shipments from non-EDI customers, they have intuitive cloning features that let you easily replicate previous shipments, saving both shipper and carrier rates with just a few taps. If you are ready to learn more, visit www.revenova.com to request a demo. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. What I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody, or as Corey Buchan says, happy Taco Tuesday. We got a solo show today, you guys, and I'm going to start incorporating more of these back into the mix. And it is more geared towards, again, like the reason why I do this show is we need more people who are actually in the industry and building businesses to kind of talk about this stuff. And I want to, again, talk about strategy. We're going to talk about the market, how things are actually going on out there. But most importantly, like, how do you sell through that, right? There's a lot of emphasis going on out there about when's the market going to flip? How is this going to happen? What's going on here? But, like, how do you sell through it? How do you react through it? And, again, I'm just going to bring you guys my experience of how I've sold through that and where I think the best position for you to be in is in a market shift. We are going to also break down a couple of articles here, again, because I like to talk about the headlines or whatever you want to call them for the industry on this show to keep kind of people informed. And again, just put my perspective out there. One quick reminder, though, our weekly newsletter drops tomorrow. So if you want to get in on that, go to thefreightcoach.com. It's at the bottom of the stream here. Just go there and then just sign up for it. It'll auto prompt you to register for it. Again, it's just once a week. It drops every single Wednesday. We just talk about freight in there, you guys. We talk about diesel prices and rates and everything and what's going on. And, I'm going to be putting more of a data component into it here coming up, because I'll be announcing one of those awesome data partners here coming up here shortly. But, speaking of that, fuel actually, and my team actually reminded me of this yesterday. Fuel prices aren't being updated on a national level, at least not on the weekly basis that they were. And that has everything to do with our friends in Washington being shut down right now. And, before I say anything further, I do want to thank all of the government employees who are continuing to show up to work without receiving a paycheck right now. I know you guys all know you're going to get your back pay and everything, but still, it doesn't go unnoticed out there by the regular public, the regular folks who are out there working and doing it. So again, I appreciate you guys still showing up and making our country turn. But I will say this. I don't know about you guys, but my life hasn't really changed much since the government shut down. And I think that's a pretty clear indicator on how large of a government we actually need out there compared to what it is in its current status. And, again, I just find it ironic that the government employees are expected to show up, but none of the elected officials are. Yeah, that's right, because they're still receiving a paycheck. So shout out to all those congressmen, though, who have implemented or who have put a bill on the floor that they should not get paid during a government shutdown, which I'm not shocked, but I'm shocked that that's not a real thing out there. But we won't get into any more politics today, you guys, because, well, we actually will, because there's a couple of the articles we're going to be talking about. But again, I like to keep this on freight in the show, and we are going to do that. But spot versus contract, selling the right freight strategy going into 2026. That's going to be our focus here this morning on everything. Robert Cowton, good morning. I think that, again, as we're sitting here wondering when's the freight market going to change, how is it going to change, what's going to go on out there, I think we need to be thinking about what's the best position for us when it actually changes, right? And how can we implement some of these sales strategies today inside of there? Now, again, I love all freight, right? Contracted freight is great, spot market freight is great, but my favorite freight is one that I make money on, right? Just like everybody's favorite freight is the one that they make money on. And going through multiple market shifts out there in my past career, in the past of my career, and I will be going through one here as well, because your boy actually moves freight. But I look at it like this. I want to be in that spot market position. And I say that because in some of the past market shifts I've been in, and when I was locked into an RFP, like I was talking about on the show last week, you guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news to a lot of you. Customers are not going to want to raise their prices next year. All right. They're not going to want to raise their prices for the foreseeable future until it gets to the point where there is so much failure inside of their current network of providers that they are forced to go out there and do a rebid. I know one year, I think it was 2015 or 2016, there was 3 rebids in 1 year during one of those. There was some major weather events that were happening back then, but there was 3 rebids out there. And it had to be because everybody was rejecting tenders and everything else at a very high level. So it was forced into that, right? But I look at it is as much, and again, I'm not sitting here saying contracted freight is bad, but when you are locked in, especially going into this next market shift, if you're bidding on your freight right now with current rates in mind, and I know that, a lot of reports out there that I see is they want to keep it the same. They're trying to lower it, everything else. Again, you guys, welcome to capitalism. That's what happens. But I think that the way that this market is going to shift, and I kind of explained it on the show last week, but just a little quick recap for those of you who are tuning in for the first time or who didn't catch that episode last week. They're not going to want to, shippers, manufacturers are not going to want to raise their rates right away, right? At all. So if you are in a position where you are in a spot market bidding position with your customers, that is a very solid spot for you to be in. And I say that because the way that the market shift is going to happen, you guys, is and again, this is why I'm saying I don't foresee anything meaningful happening. It could be 12 months from now, you guys, before capacity leaves out there, service failures increase, and a bunch of stuff happens that forces a rebid out there in the market. But I look at it like this. Customers aren't going to have to necessarily reach outside of their current network of providers anytime soon, right? So that's what I'm getting at when people talk about a market shifting. It's not a sliver of data that says, oh, look at this, rates are up 2 cents a mile or whatever bullshit people pull from. I'm talking about the likelihood of a manufacturer or a shipper opening up their freight opportunities to outside providers. So if that happens, it's going to be in a spot market capacity. That's a very good position to be in during a market shift, because your customers, you're never going to ask you, why did you bid these rates for 2026 back in 2025 if you thought the market was going to shift and everything else? So it gives a little bit of a softer landing out there when it happens, right? Like when you're in that spot market position where you're bidding on today's prices and everything else. And, again, not to say that you can't bid it up and make money throughout the year, because I feel like the most successful brokers who navigate a market shift out there, they understand that the customers are not going to want to raise their prices anytime soon. Carrier prices are going to creep up. Then your margin percentage is going to be compressed out there. And we'll get to an article potentially later on in the show, but AI is opening up a lot of those doors right now, while a lot of companies are reducing their headcounts, specifically inside of transportation. When they're reducing their fixed costs out there, that is going to make the blow to their revenue manageable, because they don't have all this headcount to pay for anymore, because AI doesn't have feelings, right, ladies and gentlemen? But anyways, back onto the point. I think that's one of those things. So it's like when some of these larger providers out there are implementing AI and automation, yes, the marketing is always going to say one thing, but the brass tacks is, you guys, is it's going to save them a lot of money out there. And when market shifts and rates, again, shippers are not going to want to raise their prices out there. And if the market shifts in 2026 in any meaningful way, cost carriers are going to raise their prices. And the smartest providers out there understand that. And as a broker, you need to weather that reduction in margin percentage to stay in their network, to make it out to a rebid, right? When you're in a contracted perspective. So I think that's why there's going to be just more and more of a major push of automation out there. But from a spot market perspective, as you're selling right now, it's a great position to be in, right? So like your opportunities might come few and far between right now with some of your guys' customers. And I'm going to just use my brokerage's actual results here just as a talking point. We onboarded, a decent amount of shippers over the years, right? Like we've been in business for a little over 3 years now. We've onboarded a decent amount of shippers, right? But it's taken a long time to work our way up the priority list as a provider. And it got to the point now where, we've moved an exponential amount of freight this year in comparative to the 2 previous years. And that's because, again, it's not like they opened up their freight opportunities to other providers when a service failure happened. They just went down their setup providers list, right? Like, hey, these guys are here. Let's let them bid on it. Oh, hey, they bid on it. Oh, hey, they executed upon it. Let's start giving them more and more volume. I think you're going to see that entirely all of next year. That's why I don't think that there's going to be any meaningful change of opportunities that are just going to come free flowing in. And I feel like that's the general sentiment that you hear out there is they're like, oh, once the market shifts, all of a sudden, all this freight's going to become available. That's not the case, you guys. Again, I will be that asshole to tell you guys the truth that nobody else is, because I'm not trying to sell you any form of automation that is going to save your life here, you guys. I'm trying to tell you exactly how it has gone in the past and how I feel like it's going to go. And that's why I feel like when you're in that spot market opportunity, at bidding on freight, you are in the best position to weather a market shift, because you will never be adhered to, why did you bid this in 2025 and say that this was going to work for 2026 when it's not working anymore, right? Because I've had to have that conversation, and it sucks, right? Because you're like, well, we don't have a fucking crystal ball. But anyways, besides the point, I think as you're going out there, it's a great position to be in. When you're getting in the door, when you're making your sales calls and everything else here, you guys, and then you're getting a couple of one-off opportunities here and there, just know that once you continue to show up through this next transition or iteration of a market, whenever it happens, you're going to be in a very healthy position to take on more and more volume. I love contracted freight. I love RFP freight and all of that comes along with it. But I feel like if I'm choosing, and that's the topic of this show today, I would rather be in a spot market opportunity style bid going into a market shift than a contracted one that I bid on in 2025. And that is just because I've seen markets flip a lot overnight. And again, if you're bidding in that spot market capacity, your customer's not going to look at you in any other way of dang, you're just showing up and making it happen. Yeah, your prices are a little bit higher, but we expect that, right? And it's just, again, this is just the real world experiences of selling through a market. So I just pay attention to that. It's not a bad position to be in. New opportunities might be few and far between out there, but they're out there. And it's just on you as a sales rep to go out there and uncover them. So spot has my massive dub as a position to be in going into a market shift, because I just think you can weather it a lot easier. Now, again, I like to say this often. I could be wrong, you guys. It could be a complete shit show when it happens. And when it does, then they might just open up, rebid everything and everything else. And I could be wrong, but I just don't think that that's going to happen, because I feel like there's enough providers that are kind of waiting in the wind that will absorb a lot of that. And then especially the ones who have invested in automation, the ones that have reduced their overhead to a point now where they can weather that storm from a financial standpoint. I mean, look at the 10Ks, which is the financial statements from a lot of these publicly traded companies inside of transportation, you guys. Their brokerages are bleeding money. All right, look at that. Just pay attention to that stuff. And that to me, but they're the same companies that are out there talking about implementing tech and AI and everything else. So that's just, again, I went to public school, but that is just my like my perception of what is going to happen. All right. So that's where it is. Now we're going to get into a couple of articles here. Robert Cowan did have a question. Riddle me this. I've been a freight agent since 28 and never won an RFP once yet. I have had the 7 same customers since 2008. You can, yeah, no, absolutely, Robert. I agree, man. There's a lot more shippers out there that don't operate off of an RFP than do. It just, those are the two freight pricing classifications that a lot of people talk about. And I wanted to kind of discuss that, but no, man, there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, one of my busiest shippers out there does not have an RFP at all. So there is other freight that's out there. I was just trying to break it down into an A/B perspective as I was explaining that. But you guys, let's get into a couple of articles here. 2 of them are going to be from ttnews.com, you guys. And again, we're talking about taking action. States are taking action on FMCSA non-domiciled CDL order out there. You guys, first article is from ttnews.com. The article reports that several states are responding to the federal crackdown on the issuance of non-domiciled CDLs and permits under the emergency rule from the DOT. States have been ordered to pause or restrict issuing them out there. For those of you who haven't heard that yet, that is what's going on. Some states had issued CDLs to ineligible drivers. States such as South Carolina, Kentucky, Maryland, and Oregon have already tightened or suspended issuing them, so they can demonstrate compliance. Other states, California, Colorado, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Texas, and Washington, were singled out in the federal audit and have either paused or are reviewing their issuance policies out there. The federal government is threatening to withhold, and I'm pretty sure they did already. They did withhold $40 million from California if they do not comply with it. Pro-trucking organizations like the ATA largely support the tightening of oversight. Meanwhile, groups like OIDA have urged even stronger action, calling for a full suspension or of state authority to issue non-domiciled CDLs out there. Obviously, you guys, main talking points around this is safety, right? And then it's while states are not strictly required to issue non-domiciled CDLs, many do. The federal government is now using funding threats out there to get them to fall in line, which, again, if you've ever paid attention in history, it's not the first time that the government has ever threatened to withhold funding. I mean, look at 2020 through 2021. How many states were threatened to be withheld funding for not issuing certain health measures out there? And I'm going to sidestep a couple of keywords on this show, you guys, because my data shows that when I say certain words, the social media warlords don't exactly like it. Impact on the non-domiciled CDL holders out there. I personally, I've talked about this on the show already. I do not think the ones that hold non-domiciled CDLs in the legal manner are the issue at all. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. Economic and supply chain considerations. A key counter argument is whether the crackdown could disrupt the industry. I don't think it will at all. Like I said, you guys, there is no driver shortage. All right. So from the mainstream media that is out here trying to push a narrative, there is no driver shortage. There's probably never been a driver shortage. at least of any significance that would throw a wrench into the supply chain at all. And then, OIDA, again, I don't always agree with OIDA on everything, but I stand with them on this, that they need to push this even further and review this even further. I feel like a hard pause on a lot of stuff for an extended period of time would do a lot of good, because I feel like a lot of the systems that are being circumvented are they need to be exposed, and we need to fix this stuff, right? Like I just think that this is one of those situations that we got to get this in order here. And again, we're not going to look at it from an immigrant or non-immigrant standpoint here. I think every business owner out here has seen increases in insurance and everything. And I feel like every time there's more and more accidents that are out here, your premium is indirectly affected by that and will raise by that. So I think like there's an overarching theme of safety that needs to be taken into consideration, and what that affects on the industry with your insurance policies and everything else. And again, there's got to be a standard, you guys. There has to be an operating standard out there that people need to adhere to. There shouldn't be ways to circumvent the rules at all out there, because I feel like at the end of the day, if I'm held to a certain standard that if I don't comply with, I lose my business and go to jail, I think everybody should be held to that same standard. But, again, what do I know? That article, you guys, states taking action on the FMCSA non-domiciled CDL order. That article was from ttnews.com. The second one is also from TT News, and it is California refutes the FMCSA ELP enforcement claim. And then this article talks about the dispute between the state of California and the federal government about this. And it would, obviously, and then the feds, or Duffy, removed $40-some million in funding from them. And California officials responded that they do comply. State law requires CDL applicants to demonstrate English proficiency exclusively in English without translators. They argue that federal law does not mandate ELP checks during roadside inspections, so that the federal demand is beyond the legal requirements. The FMCSA insists restoration of withheld funds hinges on California adopting state regulations aligned with the federal ELP. In short, California says we already enforce it for CDL issuance. You must also enforce ELP during roadside or enforce or lose funding, right? So again, I don't have the actual law in front of me here, but I feel like if California is right and it does not state that you need to do it during roadside inspections, I always want to, I just like calling balls and strikes on the show. All right. If that is true, that needs to be changed. Then they need to put that in. And, again, the federal government can't just say, do it this way now if the law states something differently. All right. Like I feel like there has to be a fine line. Again, if we're going to hold standards and that is not actually in there, it needs to be in there. But if it is in there and California is just using word vomit, all of their funding should be paused, right? Like we need to get this stuff fixed out there. I look at it as, again, it's just going to boil down to safety for me. All right. Yes, there's Google Translate. There's a bunch of stuff that is going on out there that drivers can utilize. But if a state is not complying with how CDLs are issued and how roadside inspections by law are supposed to be issued, that needs to stop. And there needs to be something done. And the best way to get people to fall in line generally has to do with money. So I stand by the removing of the funding as long as that is what the law says. And again, you guys, I only have so much time to research a lot of these articles, and I didn't pull up the actual verbiage in the law out there. So I apologize for that. But based on what I'm reading in the article here, the state of California says that the English language proficiency is not in the law on the roadside inspections aspect of it. So that is the key point that is taken into consideration here. But that article, you guys, ttnews.com, obviously the state of California is going to openly refute pretty much anything the current administration says at this point, because I'm convinced that's Gavin Newsom's entire presidential election bid that he's going to have in 2028 is just going to be like, I will just do the opposite of what the current administration does and says. And he thinks that that's just going to be a winning strategy out there because that's just kind of what that's just politics for you. But I want to bring up what, again, is kind of what I was talking about last week. All right. This is the fact that the law doesn't matter to criminals. All right. And people are going to break the law because criminals don't care about the law. Right. And again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't enforce it and there shouldn't be standards. I'm very, very clear on the fact that there needs to be. But there's an article that came out from CDLLife.com yesterday. And I want you guys to read this one because driver without CDL driving for illegal company placed on ICE detainer for fatal US 20 crash. A truck driver without a CDL has been placed on an ICE detainer after a fatal crash in Indiana last week. The crash happened on October 15th outside of Portage, Indiana. According to Fox 32, a Ram Sprinter van was stopped on eastbound US 20 attempting to turn left onto Douglas when a semi truck driven by Broko Stankovic approached it without slowing. Stankovic, okay, there was a spelling error in one of them there, but I think it's Stankovic was the last name. Then suddenly swerved left and entered the westbound lanes where he collided with a Subaru Crosstrek. The collision caused the tractor trailer to jackknife, sending the cab of the semi-truck sliding into the stopped van, which then pushed into a road sign. Both people in the van were treated and released, but the 54-year-old motorist in the Subaru died at the scene. Police soon discovered that Stankovic did not possess a CDL, but did have a suspended CDL belonging to a family member on himself. The trucking company was driving for was also not registered with the DOT. And so I think that right there is one of those things, you guys, that is probably one of the larger, it's probably a lot larger issue than people think. Because, again, I personally think that there are way more people operating illegally than a lot of people want to think, right? Like, if you look at it and you're going out there, even if, like you guys have all seen the videos of the people removing the labels from the side of their truck on what their trucking company is and everything else. Who's not to say a lot of that stuff is going on and they're just not operating legally at all. But, there's one MC, for example, or one trucking company that's shared by like 45 other trucking companies, right? And again, the FMCSA has all of this data in their possession right now, right? But they don't, I swear they just don't look at it. But again, I think like the further issue that we're seeing here is there's people down there who are probably, there's probably more of this than people want to admit. And again, but it goes back to the point of, the standards that are out there. But again, the enforcement of the standards. I think that it has gotten to a point where the DOT and the FMCSA has not done their job for so long. It has allowed stuff like this to happen. Okay. And again, when you have standards on immigration, work visas, all of that stuff that should be strict, I think it deters a lot of this behavior. I'm not going to say it's eliminated because I'm not naive to think that just because there's strict laws that criminals aren't going to break the law, right? But I feel like it deters a lot of that behavior if there are repercussions for your actions as opposed to a slap on the wrist and an ability to just come back into the country, right? So I think like this is probably a lot worse than most people are going to want to talk about. I don't have the exact numbers in front of us here, but there's a company, I'm not affiliated with GenLogs at all, you guys, but what GenLogs is doing for the industry, I think is extremely beneficial. And again, I want standards in place because I want this stuff to stop. All right. I want this stuff to stop. I want to see innocent people stop losing their lives due to reckless driving by people who do not possess valid CDLs, who are not even driving for an actual company. And they're just out there fucking putting a new company logo up on the side of their truck. I think it's a very, very bad situation that I want to see stop. And again, just like with fraud, just like with everything else, you guys, when you have standards, when you're out there selling your freight, I'm not saying that it stops fraud from happening to you and double brokering happening to you, but they're looking for an easy target. And if it's easy for criminals to operate in an environment like this, they're going to continue to operate in an environment like this if there's no repercussions for it, right? Like, we need stricter standards. They're like, it should, if you are found to be in this position right here, anybody who's associated with that truck should lose their ability to operate a business in this country for like 10 fucking years. It should be so strict that you would never do it. That's the way that this has to go, because otherwise, you guys, there's going to be more and more reports of this happening, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't happen anymore. But again, I think that this is a lot worse than people want to openly admit and talk about, because, you know, the current administration is going to want to say like, hey, this is the issue out here and we have our hands around it. But I think that this article that CDL Life released out there is might be a little bit more common than people want to admit. But again, this is why we need standards. This is why there needs to be actual repercussions for actions out here. And I feel like the stricter the laws in regards to this, or, you know, even the more severe the punishment, the less likely people are going to be willing to participate in that type of behavior out there, right? So it's sad. It's sad that there are innocent people losing their lives due to this stuff. And again, it starts and stops with the FMCSA. Don't think I'm going to sit here and absolve them from any blame in this manner. But again, it's maybe Duffy and Buttigieg didn't create this issue, but it's on Duffy now to fix this issue at the end of the day, just like it's on the current administration to fix these issues that our industry is facing. But that will be it, you guys. That article was from CDLlife.com. Check it out, you guys. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said at the beginning of the show, if you're in that spot market selling opportunity, you're in a good spot going in if the market does, in fact, shift into 2026. And I laid out on this episode what that would look like. So if you guys want to check this out, the audio-only replay will be available on iTunes and Spotify later on, or when the stream ends, just start the stream over. That'll help you guys out. But that'll be it. I got guests coming on for the rest of the week. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the bag. Ayy, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the lane move